Recording video on Sunday, the 24th of September 2023, just gone 3:56 a.m. Chicago time. Do hope you are doing well. So it's the weekend and time for another weekend futures market recap, where I go through 15 of the largest futures markets and I show you what I'm seeing on my charts. Now, I do hope you traded it well last week. We were expecting a risk-off week, and we had 2 or 3 of the best trading days I think we've had in a few months. We're down about 200 points or so from a little recent high at the end of last week, and it's been really good trading this week. Question is that enough? Are we done on the downside? I think we're going to base for a little bit. So I think this next week, I think we're going to be looking for just a lot of bottoming activity before reversing and going the other way. But I'll show you what I'm seeing on my charts and see if you agree with me. So we'll start off with the E-mini on the daily chart, going all the way down to the 15-minute chart and then the tip bar charts and all the signals. Traditional view of the better indicators with 2 panels side by side, everything to do with volume on the left-hand side with Better Pro-Am, which uses the average trade size to identify professional and amateur activity, professionals in blue, amateurs in yellow. Better momentum, which is a volume-based momentum indicator beneath the price bars here. A better sine wave on the right-hand panel, calculating the cyclical activity in 3 different time frames, and that allows us to print support and resistance lines on the price bars themselves, and breaks of those gives us uptrends and downtrends. So when everything's sinking in the same direction, we've got volume and price both moving up, a background is printed in red. That's why I've been saying for months and months now, we are in a confirmed uptrend. All we're doing is having a little bit of retesting activity, coming back down to lows where we can resume this uptrend. And the reason for that is we have seen no blue professional bars at the highs taking profits. Last time we saw blue professional bars back in October of last year, down here at the lows. They were in at the lows here, they were in at the lows here, they bought this low, they were not taking profits up here at the highs at 4,600. This was the amateurs getting wrong-footed at those highs with those Rambo patterns, and yellow bars. R is a Rambo pattern. That is amateurs getting wrong-footed, getting too excited, market goes the other way, and we're waiting for the professionals to step in. Whether they'll step in on the 135-minute chart or the daily chart, we'll have to wait and see. But that would be nice if over the next week we have a blue professional bar step in here, and that'll trail this Better Pro-Am trailing stop here, will trail back up to that level. That'll be a recent low that we can use, and we'll bounce off there. We'll bust up through this 4,600 level, reach new highs. So when is that going to happen? So on the daily chart here, we put in a pullback to end of trend. It was a little bit late here on the NASDAQ. I think this is better marked at that 4,600 level there. The pullback level comes in. We're playing out this resistance to support on the daily chart on better sine wave. And you can see here that we've had a cross. So timing wise, we're in due for some cyclical low at this point to come in. We also have coming very close behind it, the slightly thicker bars here. That's the intermediate time frame coming together. So I'm expecting that all to hit this next week. So all of that will come together. That'll be a really important cyclical turning point. If both those supports come in at a very kind of close level together, that'll mark an important low and we'll bounce from there. If we do get a blue professional bar at the same time, that's potentially pretty significant day. So it could be an ugly day in terms of churn and volume, average trade sizes going through. So maybe we've got to look for that this week. But timing wise, cyclically, this next week's going to be important for finding that low. And it's just going to be a case of testing and testing to find that low from which to bounce. So there we go. That's the daily chart, the 135-minute chart here. Again, you can see all these up bars are all amateur up bars, amateur bars. No blue professional bar yet. This trailing stop is miles away. Timing wise here, on the 135-minute chart here, we have a little bit of confluence here. We've got a cross in the highest time frame here. We've got a cross on the intermediate time frame here. So that's in due at that point. We haven't had an exhaustion sell pattern in terms of better momentum down here. So that's not great. Going to have to put in that before we get a bounce back. Not sure. 45-minute chart here, a little bit better in terms of blue professional bars stepping in here, but we're below supports on the intermediate and the lowest time frame. We have to start putting in pullback to end of trend patterns on these lower time frame charts for these things to sync up. We've got a cyclical turn in due on the highest time frame here, around here, so I think we're going to go for a little bit of backwards and forwards, pushing down into these lows in order to get that pullback to end of trend pattern here. It was a decent read on the 45-minute chart here in terms of the sell-off over the last couple of days, but not enough to generate an exhaustion sell signal here. It was this type of level over 50,000 negative on the downside here, and we only just get a little bit past that. So Again, I'm convincing myself that we've still got some more downside and an exhaustion pattern to put in, and then some basing before we start to bounce. 15-minute chart here, yes, this is more like it. Okay, 15-minute chart, we've got the vertical solid yellow lines marking the beginning and the ends of the week. Last weekend's video, after we had this collapse, I said look for risk off this next week. Bang, that's what we got. 4,500 level all the way down to 43.64. And now we've got some exhaustion patterns here. And we're also starting to put in some nice pullback to end of trend patterns here. So the blue professional bar started coming at the lows. We got exhaustion sell, bullish divergence right on the zero line. So say look for a flush pattern. In fact, what we get is we get another exhaustion sell pattern really clearing the market out at this point. Pullback to end of trend, cyclical support on the intermediate time frame. This one we've got to go back up, make pullback to end of trend on the highest time frame on the 15-minute chart, and again start basing and pushing, testing into that 43.64 level down there until we've got real confirmation. So we've got to put in some blue professional bars on the 15-minute chart down here. So that means some big activity, high average trade size to come in this week. So the 13,500 tip bar chart was really instructive this week because we need to concentrate on the momentum patterns. We've run from exhaustion buy to exhaustion sell to exhaustion buy to exhaustion sell. So if you look at the end of last week, towards the end of last week, we had exhaustion buy into these highs. Blue professional bars set in, we have a bearish divergence signals, bang, we break into a downtrend. So the move is starting on the downtrend. And then on Tuesday this week, we had a short covering rally, and I'll go into that on the lower time frame charts here. We have this little local low comes in. It was quite difficult to identify that. It was not an exhaustion sell pattern at that point. And what they did is they started to trigger stops. And if you were trading on Tuesday, you could feel that momentum. It just kept on going and going and going, triggering of stops all the way into the close of the day. And what that did is it generated two exhaustion buy patterns there. Now, we've not put an exhaustion sell in pattern here. All that's doing is triggering all of those resting stop orders for traders that short into this move, and that's a short covering rally. So we just keep on incrementing up and up and up until we trigger all those stops out. We generate an exhaustion pattern, bearish divergence comes in, we have a little test with amateur bars heading up into that move, and then bang, we collapse through those lows into this waterfall move. Exhaustion sell, getting this second move going. And then we start to see the exhaustion sell patterns coming in here. Exhaustion sell, bullish divergence, close to the zero line. We put in a flush down here, and that's good. So we've run from exhaustion buy, an exhaustion buy which was a short covering rally at that point, to finally exhaustion sell starting to come in. So that was a really nice move. If I go down to the tip bar charts just to zero in on that Tuesday's activities, so that was the 19th here. And you can see here on the 4500 tip bar chart, beginning of the day, we come into those lows. There was nothing to signal on that 4500 tick bar chart here that there were professionals stepping in at that point, but they started to trigger those stops, and we went all the way into the close when the blue professional bars came in at the close. Some little jiggery pokery the next day, and then we break into this downtrend here. But that's a short covering rally with the exhaustion buy patterns coming in. On the 1500 tip bar chart, you can start to see some of those blue professional bars come in here at the lows, but it wasn't with an exhaustion pattern. There was nothing really to show that that was going to be a reversal move that was so strong, but that was what was going on. As soon as we started to trigger those resting stops at that point, bang, we got a whole bunch triggered here. Professionals come in at this point here, and we go and make another move up here to that exhaustion pattern, and then it's gunky to the end of the day with a dotted yellow vertical line here at the end of the day, and then we converse overnight in the beginning of the next day's trade here into a downtrend. Bang, there we start to go. The blue professional bars step in here, and we really start to sell off hard. There we go. So that was a tick bar chart from this week's activity. In terms of cycles on the 13,500 tick bar chart here, this is the end of trends rippling through the time frames. So we got a pullback to end of trend on the lowest time frame here, showing a left shoulder, pullback to end of trend on the intermediate time frame, showing the head of this move, and it's coming with cyclical support in that general area. So we're going to be basing a little bit and just testing and testing into those lows. So it's a nice little pattern at the end of this week on the 13,500 tip bar chart to have maybe a little bit of a bounce, but I think we're going to be testing and testing a little bit this whole week before we're convinced that we can break the other way. So let's look at the tip bar charts for the triple signals, starting with the Forex charts here. So here's the Euro chart, and the last 2 weeks we've been signaling short and short and short here, here, and here on the Euro. Euro hasn't bottomed yet. We don't have exhaustion sell. We don't have blue professional bars coming in here at the lows. So we've got nothing going on there. Also, British pound signaled short a couple of weeks ago, bang. Spurious signal here, didn't come with blue professional bars on those lows with the exhaustion sell and the bullish divergence, so I didn't like that for a reversal trade, and we've continued to trade down on the British pound. And again, no blue professional bars coming at the lows down here, no exhaustion sell patterns on British pound. Aussie dollar's been a little bit stronger. We had signals last week and we had some strength this week, but it collapsed midweek and it's going nowhere. So Aussie dollar, nothing happening there. Japanese yen continues to trade down. Again, this signal wasn't particularly great, wasn't at the right place with the bullish divergence coming in there. We had some blue professional bars and an exhaustion pattern here, but it's continued to trade down on the Japanese yen. For the euro and the Japanese yen are carry funding currencies. And we've got a real collapse happening in the equities market. I think we would have started to see some real strengthening in the Japanese yen and the euro if those carry trades were being unwound. So maybe that's a good thing. So it means that all we're going through is just a technical sell-off in the equities markets and that it's not more structural. In terms of signals on the E-mini, there was last week's signal, bang short into this move, which turned out to be a cracker. And then down here on Friday's trade, we're starting to see triple signals converse and go the other way. So looking for some early strength next week in the E-mini, but that might be short-lived if we continue to trade down. What's more interesting to me here is the 10-year notes. This is a nice signal down here. I've got a nice exhaustion, sell, bullish divergence, and a whole family of blue professional bars come in here where the market is oversold. So that's a classic triple signal there. So let's look for 10 years to strengthen this week. And precious metals. Gold signal at the end of last week ran into trouble here with a whole bunch of blue professional bars coming in here at 1970. We sold off really hard there. It's probably the Fed announcement that triggered that weakness there. Silver, what was silver doing? Silver, we had a signal at the end of last week where we ran into trouble here. Blue professional bars come in, sell down. We traded back up, a little bit junky there. Bitcoin, these were nice signals into those highs, but it's super volatile up here at 27.5. It's going nowhere. Blue professional bars coming in, exhaustion, sell, bullish divergence, but it's not oversold yet with the background in red. So we got a little bit of time before we get another signal in Bitcoin. And then crude. So temporarily crude has maxed out here at 92, but it did not come with blue professional bars at the highs. We got an exhaustion buy and bearish divergence here underneath that high, which is interesting. But not a whole bunch of blue professional bars come in here to top it out. So let's see if crude weakens and then the professionals buy back in on crude. Natural gas, we got to $3.10 this week. That's interesting. But no blue professional bars at the highs here. That come in here at the lows with exhaustion sell. So let's see if we get a signal this week on natural gas. And copper. So copper got wrecked this week. It was a risk-off week. There's our signal at the end of last week's short. Nice little stair-step trade here. Market trades back to exhaustion buy, bearish divergence. Blue professional bars step in. We stair-step the trailing stop on better pro-am. We sell off super hard here down to 365. But at these lows, we now have exhaustion sells and some blue professional bars at the lows here. We're testing at that point. The copper chart looks pretty similar to the equities chart, so I wonder if they're going to trade in tandem, kind of have a little bit of a rally and then test back down into these lows. And corn and the ags. Yep, so the ags I was saying last week were looking strong, and we're starting to get signals again down here at these lows. So this one didn't catch. We come back down a little bit lower. Blue professional bars, exhaustion sell, bullish divergence, another triple signal long. At that point, professionals taking profits here and we weaken from there. So we've almost got to remake that low on corn again. Soybeans signaled, but we didn't have blue professional bars here at the lows. Now, this time around, we do have more blue professional bars coming at the lows. Exhaustion sell, bullish divergence, oversold. So potentially we're going to get another triple signal long on soybeans this week. And then lastly, wheat. Very junky here. Blue professional bars into those highs, blue professional bars into those lows. Exhaustion buy, getting the move going. So finding difficulty, probably worth going up a time frame. Yeah, so the strongest of those looks like it's the soybeans chart here. So I think the 10 years is looking interesting this week. See if that long signal works out. As far as the E-mini goes, yep, we could maybe get a little bit of strength based on these signals Monday into Tuesday. But I still think we're going to have a testing type week where we're going to be pushing down and testing those lows until we get all those cyclical patterns coming together and us being able to reverse properly. So I'd look for the mini to be a bit more rangy this week. So caught in a range, pushing down and down, and then seeing if the blue professional bars step in at those lows that we put in to really test that low, from which we can have a decent rally, potentially starting the end of this week into next week. So there we go. Hope your trading is going well and looking forward to next week's trade.